What's up, squad? Welcome to the Strength Squad podcast. I'm your co-host, Steve Carty. Apologies for this week's intro, but we had some software difficulties, some computer difficulties. Long and short, I'm kind of just putting together a quick intro today, kind of segueing into our awesome interview we had with Jacob Ross. So I'll keep this kind of short and sweet. First, before we start, though, our NEWSDZ is from Elite FTS this week, and his article about armor plating your upper body and power training your lower body. And what the article goes through is kind of like a conjugate-ish, kind of like, I don't want to say basic, but a template that you could kind of use for your training. And it goes over it a little more in detail, but kind of keeping it simple type stuff. So go check that out. We'll link that in our show notes, and we'll also link that on our social media this week. It's a really awesome article, so I suggest you go check it out. But without further ado, we have Jacob Ross. Jacob Ross is a strength coach who has trained numerous professional athletes, and most notably, he's currently Luol Deng's trainer, who, if you're not familiar with professional basketball, Luol Deng's an NBA player for the Lakers and formerly of the Chicago Bulls. So this dude knows his stuff, man. He blew us away. So stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we give you Jacob Ross. Want more of the Strength Squad? You can check out all of our social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Also, check us out on YouTube, where you can watch all of your favorite Strength Squad videos. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on iTunes and Stitcher.
Stitcher? I just met her. We would like to thank our friends at Plant Warrior Protein, official sponsor of the Strength Squad podcast. Plant Warrior plant-based protein is easier on your stomach and contains a complete amino acid profile that helps you grow, maintain, and repair your muscles. It gives you 18 grams of protein per serving, and it's made from a blend of rice, pea, and hemp. Plant Warrior pledges to plant one tree for every item you purchase at their online store. Head over to plantwarrior.co, that's plantwarrior.co, and use the promo code STRENGTH10 to get 10% off of your purchase. That's promo code STRENGTH10 for 10% off of any Plant Warrior purchase. What's up, crew? Welcome to the Strength Squad podcast. I'm your co-host, Steve Carty.
And I'm Nick Scopoletti.
And we're here with Jacob Ross today. Jacob, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing
well.
great.
We're going to talk to Jacob today about him and what he's into now and how he got to where he is, kind of his background, and then we're going to talk a little bit about training professional athletes with Conjugate. Conjugate's kind of been like a hot topic on the show lately, but it's important stuff, so we want to get it out there.
Absolutely.
So Jacob, just tell everyone like who you are, what you are doing right now, your height, weight, best bench press, and all that.
All right, I'll run it down for everybody. Well, right now I'm actually on vacation in Florida, which is awesome. But my name is Jacob Ross. I am an elite sports performance coach. Quick rundown on my background. I was a very good high school athlete, had a chance to play in college for football, but I had too many concussions, had to stop. My parents pushed me academically, so I graduated valedictorian of my small high school. But hey, somebody's got to win, right? So I got a good scholarship to TCU in Fort Worth, and I double majored in movement science and health and fitness, which obviously have a lot of overlap, but different application. Right. I did 2 years of grad school in exercise phys, and I was going to do a PhD in neuroscience. Jesus. Because I really like training. I enjoyed, in college, I would train anybody for free. Police, professors, students. And then in grad school, I actually taught training classes. That 3-hour credit you need physical activity or whatever. I actually taught weight training. So I really enjoyed training. I would also train a ton of athletes at TCU who just felt underserved, like they were kind of getting lost in the mix with the strength coaches. But I didn't want to train at like a 24-hour fitness, or a Lifetime. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just not what I wanted to do. I was super interested in elite athletes. I also didn't want to go the route of basically becoming a coach where you go intern under somebody, and if you're lucky, you'll get a head coaching job as a strength coach at like D3 and then D2, and then you kind of work your way up and your family's moving around. That just wasn't appealing to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I really was blessed. A guy I knew from TCU coached on the Chicago Bears. He connected me with a guy named Elias Karras, who owns a gym called EFT Sports Performance in Chicago. And literally, I was walking out of a final in grad school, a functional neuroanatomy final, and I'd been up for like 3 days straight.
Jesus, that just sounds tough. Like that just sounds hard.
It was actually one of the hardest tests in my entire life. But I literally did stay up for like 3 days. Adderall and Red Bull made that possible.
Hey,
and some Call of Duty breaks. But I did well on the test anyway. And Elias called me and said, hey, this is what I do. I own a gym where we train professional athletes. We're looking for well-educated, younger, super motivated people. I'm trying to retool my staff. When could you come up and maybe take a visit? This was on a Wednesday. I was like, how about Friday? So I flew up on a Friday, walked in, started training right away. I was wearing cowboy boots when I walked in. He's like, did you bring anything to change into? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So, I put on my Nike Freeze, which was a big shoe at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And,
that was the jam.
went and started training. And I trained Luol Deng that day, who's two-time NBA All-Star. I trained Notre Dame football players. I trained some D1 basketball. I trained some high school kids. I think 3 of those kids in that group went on to play in the NFL. Just amazing range of different kinds of athletes and really high level. And Elias was like, man, you're really good. Everybody has such good feedback about you. You've actually added some things already that we weren't doing, but we like. Would you want to maybe do a 3-month trial and see if you want to work here? And I said yes. So I moved up a week later. So I went from in grad school to moving to Chicago in about 9 days.
Oh, snap.
Jesus.
And dropped out of grad school. I always tell people that I don't want to come across as like I finished my master's. I did 2 years. I did all of my coursework. I actually did my study, but the lab portion was going to take me about another year to year and a half because I had 40 subjects. We had a lot of blood samples. We were doing things in triplicate. I was actually looking at high intensity kind of Arthur Jones style training versus a standard ACSM protocol at the time, which is like 3 sets of 10. And just seeing could you get more work done in a shorter amount of time for an average population. And we were going to look at hormone markers and all this awesome stuff. But I was like, okay, I could take this opportunity and see what happens because grad school is not going anywhere. My blood samples were in deep storage, whatever. Or I could wait another year and a half, and maybe the opportunity is there, maybe it's not. And my mom and dad, especially my dad, really encouraged me to do what I'd set out to do. He's like, hey, if you have a chance to train pro athletes, go take it. So I did, and never looked back. been doing it since.
That's awesome, man. I have a quick question about that study that you were doing. That piques my interest quite a bit. Like, you didn't finish it, right? You said never.
Well, I mean, we finished the actual study. And I had the hard data on performance numbers, so body fat, strength performance, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't finish the blood markers numbers, so I got a good idea of what the outcome was going to be.
What would you? That's my follow up. Is like, what was the outcome? Because I like the standard 3x10 versus like a more high intensity protocol. Like, say, bodybuilding always used to be super high volume, but like Dorian Yates came along and was like, nah. I'm doing one all-out set, and so I wanted to see the difference.
Well, it's funny. Anybody that follows me on Instagram, I'm at this really interesting, it's cool. It's like this warehouse underground kind of gym in North Tampa, and they have some old Nautilus equipment. So I put on my story, does anybody know what this is?
I saw that.
And like 70% had no clue. And the 30%, I'd say maybe 5% actually knew what it was. A lot of them people guessed wrong. But Arthur Jones basically came up with tempo style training in Africa. He lived in Africa for a while as a photographer. He loved wildlife. And he had a cement bucket that he would lift slowly. And he was like, I don't need more weight. If I just move this bucket slowly, I notice that my arms get bigger, I get stronger, I can do more reps. So when he came back he moved actually to Florida and built this zoo. He had this whole compound. But the cam on the Nautilus machine, it's actually in the shape of a Nautilus. And that cam is actually accommodating resistance. It's built specifically to even out the force curve. So as you go through the range of motion, there's never an easier or a harder part. It's a consistent effort. And that was his invention. So he trained like Casey Viator, if any of bodybuilding fans, Mike Mincer, Ray Mincer, Bayer Coe, which all led to like Dorian Yates, actually. And so the study was basically Arthur Jones my professor in college used to fly to Florida to help him design equipment. And so he was pretty familiar with his principles and whatever. Now, Arthur Jones did a lot of things wrong in physiology. He just kind of said some stuff and it wasn't necessarily true, but it doesn't take away from, I think he invented, I think he has 30 plus patents on machines. Most of every machine we use now is some variation of one of his original patents. If you go on Wikipedia, they have the whole list of all of his patents. And even stuff like hammer strength and which is life fitness, really. A lot of their stuff is actually really, really close to his original designs. So a lot has changed from this guy who basically had no education, just figured it out. So anyway, the study was, we did a 4-second eccentric, 2-second positive. Within a muscle group, we didn't rest. So we do leg press into leg extension, into leg curl, into like a calf raise. So you do 4 seconds down, 2 seconds up. And the goal was to hit momentary fatigue between 8 to 15 reps. Anywhere in there is fine. And if you got to 12 reps or more, we would increase the weight on the next workout. So that whole workout, full body workout on the high intensity protocol took about 42 minutes on average. The ACSM, and we followed it to the letter, 3 sets of 10, 60 seconds rest. The exact recommendations at the time took about 1 hour and 27 minutes. And at the very minimum, very, very minimum, the people on the high intensity got the same results as the ACSM people. We never got into the super advanced metrics, so I can't say for sure one way or the other, but the data was leaning towards the high intensity people actually getting stronger and having a better body comp. So, but it makes sense. I mean,
that's what I figured now with like the rise of, CrossFit, especially, you see these people that look like they could be on stage in a bodybuilding show, but they don't train like that. So it's interesting.
Well, and it makes sense because I think if you really understand training, intensity is one of the main factors. And I'm not talking intensity like literally how hard are you training? So CrossFit, they did a good job of increasing intensity. Right. So you might be using low weights, but you're increasing your intensity because it's duration or it's, an EMOM or whatever the workout is. And the problem with like a 3 sets of 10 is 99% of people, those first 2 sets are warm-up sets. You don't push yourself on your first 2. You're like, I know I have 3 sets to do. I'm going to save a little in the tank. So on the high intensity, you don't get that. You literally have like 4 sets of legs. You'll be done in like 7 minutes. And if you don't push it all out, you basically wasted a set. So it changes the goal in your mind, which I think helps you push harder, which I think yields faster results. I don't know how much of it is. I mean, eccentrics help, and there's tons of data we can go into about that. But I think in general, intensity is the main factor there.
Got you. All right.
Interesting. Now, kind of going back a little bit, what made you want to start working with elite athletes? What was the motivation for that?
Yeah, I think it was more to do with that I didn't feel like I was able to do it. The doctors told me I could sit out a couple of years and try. And it's like, how do you sit out 2 years of a D1 sport that you never even got into really and come back and play at that level? So part of me, just being a competitive person, I don't like it when, people tell me I can't do something. And so it's like, okay, I can't do that. There's a really good reason why I can't. And that was right at the time when concussions weren't a big deal yet, but they were starting to be. So I was smart enough to say, you know what, I don't need to push myself on that front. I'd already had 8 or 9 or something by the time I was 17. And but I said, you know what, if I can't do it, then I'm going to train people to do it. That was really my motivating factor is, can I push these people to levels that I feel like they should be at. Because I remember growing up, your high school football coaches you're running literally like a mile total of sprints in 110-degree heat after a 5-hour practice.
Oh yeah.
And they're so fat they can barely walk across the field. And they're like, come on, you got to push harder, you got to want it. And I'm just like, oh, your fat ass can't do any of this. And so like I always wanted to be a coach that maybe I'm obviously not going to be an elite athlete in terms of the skill and whatever, but at least physically I push myself really hard and I could get respect from guys, or I was stronger than them or faster than them, or I could kind of hold my own. And then that lets me push those guys to another level. So I think just factoring in that I couldn't do it, and I really felt like in general I was kind of better than a lot of athletes, and TCU kind of like helped that, because I would see guys on the football team and I was stronger than them. I was faster than them. I ran a 4.45 laser time 40 in college, weighing 240.
God damn, dude.
Yeah, I did like a mini combine my senior year just for fun. I did a 36-inch vert, actual like measured like in a biomechanics lab, not like a jump up and swipe, like a real 36-inch vert. I did 225 for 29. I was deadlifting like 550, squatting 500, ran a 4.45. Like I was like, I'm better than 99% of the guys who are playing D1 football. So that just kind of said, okay, if that's true, how much better can they be? If they really got good, right information, how much better can they be? Because I'm not doing this full time. They get 4 or 5 hours a day devoted to this. Well, how much better could they be? And I think that really, that discrepancy between me not being it and feeling like they were being underserved and there's no reason for it, really pushed me to want to do that.
What position did you play in football?
I played both ways, tight end and defensive end. And my senior, I started playing varsity when I was a freshman in high school.
Damn.
And by the time I was a junior, I never came off the field. Literally, it's like a soccer match for me. Every kicking team, every special teams.
They had you on special teams too?
Oh, everything. I literally did not come off the field. I was I used to have to eat like 3 Snickers at halftime because I was just so hungry and tired.
I was going to say, playing offensive defense both ways is a task, but playing special teams too, that's like a whole different world.
Well, and playing a position where you're blocking people. Like wide receiver, DB, like a lot of high school athletes do that, but they're not getting contact every play. They can take some plays off in terms of, you're not getting the ball thrown, it's a running play. If you're on the line, you're hitting people with full force every freaking play.
Yeah.
And it's tiring. I just don't know any way around it. But I trained myself in high school. I would get up at 6 in the morning and go lift. And then I'd go to school. I'd lift with the team, which was a waste of time. I went to community college at night just to get some more credits. So that I went into college as a sophomore because I'd taken so many community college stuff. And then I would lift again on my way home because I had the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding and I thought I was supposed to be double split.
Hell yeah. I read that shit too. Love that book. That's the greatest.
So, I was a crazy little kid. I mean, to be honest, like I wasn't into what a lot of my peers were into at the time. I didn't party. I never even had a drink till I was 22. And I really just focused on lifting in school.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
No, I mean, it's good.
Great hobbies. And you mentioned before, what took you out of your athletic career? It was concussions that took you out?
Yeah, it was concussions. And, my senior year, I had 2 really bad ones. I had one that I was out for maybe a minute or 2, like completely unconscious. And they brought me to, and it was, it's funny. I was actually dating a girl at the time, but I liked another girl. And the girl I was dating was a cheerleader, right?
Oh, so yeah, here we go.
So I'm on the sidelines, and I'm literally don't know where I'm at. And they're like, "Where are you?" And so I look around. I'm like, "Well, I'm at the football field, obviously." Like, well, what night is it? Well, we only play on Fridays, so it has to be a Friday. I'm just so logical about it. And who's your girlfriend? Because she was standing right, I'm sitting here, like right behind me, because she was worried. She's like, "Well, oh, Jacob, are you okay?" And I said the girl I liked, not her. And she was like, "Oh, there's something wrong with him," because I don't know who he's talking about. I was just like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, I knew once I said it that it was wrong, but at the time I just didn't process it. So anyway,
dude, concussions ended your football career and your relationship.
Yeah, exactly. It really, like a week later, we were broken up. Actually.
Oh yeah. Figured that.
That's amazing.
But that worked out. I mean, that worked out well for me. My wife, her name's Alicia. Well, Ross. If people ever want to look her up, it's Harris, but she was actually an IFBB figure pro, and she got 6th at the Olympia a couple times. And I'm the least athletic person in my family. She ran track in college. She had a brother that ran at the Beijing Olympics in the 100. She had another brother who played in the NFL. Her dad, who's like 76, was drafted by the Packers, but chose to go fight in Vietnam. Like, crazy athletic family. And then my wife, she's just a wonderful person. I travel a lot, and she does an amazing job with our girls. But I'm the least athletic person in our family.
Your daughters have a fantastic genetic pool to pull from.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Good for them. God damn.
Playing dance games on Nintendo, shredding it up.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting them ready. Coordination.
So, Jacob, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now as far as training athletes. If you can, talk about like who you're training and kind of what your philosophy is and how you attack training.
Yeah, so I worked at EFT for 6.5, 7 years. And during that time, I went from the new guy to general manager, director of performance. I did all the programming, all the hiring, all the social media. It's a small business, so you just do everything, right?
Yeah.
And I trained, and I always like to include the group around me, my team, because yes, I directed it and I pushed a lot, but Elias taught me a ton, the guy who hired me originally. And then we hired an amazing team. So from the time that I came in with a guy named Meat. Meat's one of the best people I know. He's amazing.
Literally like MEAT. Like
yeah, well, so his real name is Dan, but there was 3 Dans that worked at the gym when I came, and so he was an intern. So like we can't call him by his name because there's 2 other Dans. So they just called him Meat because he looks like a meathead. He's huge guy, shaved head, big beard, and like he'll go and do like literally like 50 sets of biceps and triceps, and like he just loves it. Like he just gets fired up. I love Meat. He's the best.
I love this guy already. Never met him.
So him and I kind of came in at the same time, but from the time that happened till I left, there was literally no one else that was on staff when I first started. So we hired this amazing team, and we trained in a team approach. So nobody got commissioned at our gym. We all got salary or hourly, and when like a group of pro athletes would come in, I would divvy them up based on position or similar, ability, strength, speed, whatever. And then we would train them like that. So, DBs would go with this guy for speed. The linemen would always have to do core first because they never wanted to do it at the end of a workout. Quarterbacks or whoever would, go do shoulder rehab stuff from the very beginning. And we kind of had this really cool flow. And we can get into more about training philosophy later. But so I'd say we had a really good team. But we put out 8 or 9, for sure 8, maybe 9 NFL All-Stars. We had numerous Super Bowl champions. Luol Deng is a guy that I'm still training. I started training him then. He's a 2-time NBA All-Star from after I started working with him. I have an Olympic medalist in bobsled. She went from never doing it to getting a bronze medal in a year and a half. And we had tons of MLB players. Neil Kotz, who was setup man for the year on the White Sox the year that they won. And a bunch of other, think about baseball. There's so many guys who are professional. I mean, there's, you don't know unless you know that team. And then we had tons of Division I athletes: football, basketball, rowing, lacrosse, field hockey. We literally had a kid who was on a D1 scholarship for playing French horn. And he trained at our gym. He was like, I'm an athlete. I got to march. We're like, all right, bro, come on. And dude, he was awesome. Like he worked his little butt off.
Is his little butt off. He's probably tiny, huh?
He was. He worked hard. And then we had tons of D2 kids and tons of high school kids, from elite to just beginning, and everything in between. So, I just say all that to say that we did, at one point in a 2-year span, we had a Super Bowl champion, an NFL Pro Bowler, an NBA All-Star, a Division I football champion, a Division I Final Four participant, a World Series NCAA participant, and Olympian, all from our gym.
Not bad.
In a 2-year span. And I would always tell people, like, it's not a bragging thing. It's just we were doing something right. So, like, find another gym that can say that. Find another trainer who can say that, or a coach. Honestly, like, go look up whoever you want to look up. They'll have a good resume, but the only people I can think of would be like a DeFranco or a Bomarito, somebody on that level who they literally been doing it for years.
Yeah.
But we were doing it like I was the most advanced guy. I was, like 26. And everyone else was my age or younger. And we were doing it at that level then. So the system was really, really right. It was really, really cool. So that was then. Currently, I moved on. I work for myself. My main client's Luol Deng. He got traded. We stopped working with him at our gym because we were only in Chicago. And I just felt like it was time for me to move out on my own and just kind of do my own thing. The hours are really tough in a small business. And like I said, I have 2 little girls now with my wife. So Luol had this vision to continue to do some refugee work. He's from South Sudan. We do these basketball camps all over the world. He wants to build a gym where I can do my thing, and then we can continue to train some of these kids. And our vision is just really aligned. But right now, he's still playing basketball, and he's still pretty good and making good money. So we want to focus on that and maximize that. The gym's we can build a gym anytime. If he can make an extra $20 or $30 million because he's really in shape and playing at a high level, why not?
Oh yeah.
So I travel with him a lot and do that throughout the year. And in the summer, like I said, we're all over the place. We'll be in Australia, we'll be in Africa, we'll be in London, we'll be everywhere. And then I also started consulting for Barbell Brigade. So Luol plays on the Lakers right now. And in LA, that was the gym that I just found to be at home. And I worked out there for a year. I got to know Bart and Gio, the owners, really, really well, and the staff. And they're so busy. They do so many awesome things. Their comedy, their YouTube.
Oh yeah, it's funny.
I
like their stuff. It's funny.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know they have a popsicle shop. Like there's so many things that they do.
Damn.
And I said, look, I ran a gym for a long time. When I was there, we tripled our revenue over my 6 or 7 years. So I understand the inner workings of it. And Barbell Brigade's they're about 4 years old now. So at the time, they were about 2 years old. And I was like, you guys, it's not necessarily, it's hard to say mistakes because it's all part of the process. But I'm like, there's so many things I can help you skip around. And I'm in LA. I have some time. I love you guys. And we just found a really mutual, cool relationship. So I also consult for them. And that's awesome. What I'm doing now.
Awesome.
And so from a training standpoint, like the actual, you have someone in front of you, what's your philosophy, man? Like, how do you attack things? What do you feel? I mean, it's obvious that through your scholastic career and just your career as a trainer, you've accumulated a shit ton of knowledge, and it seems like you have a very like evidence-based approach, at least just from what I hear. So as far as where you are now, today, current day, Jacob Ross, like, this is how I train athletes and this is why.
Yeah, so I'll kind of give you the rundown of my evolution, right? So the first thing I ever read was Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff. My dad was a bodybuilder, not like competition, just he always lifted. He actually had some original Frank Zane stuff, so I used to read that.
All right.
When I got into college, I started buying some books, and at the time, people were writing a ton about strength training. But there was this book by Ian King and Lou Schultz. It's called Book of Muscle that Men's Health put out. And I would still say to this day, it is the single best resource for basic level physiology, basic level anatomy, and basic level strength training. You could go buy it at like a Barnes & Noble. I think even still, it's like 12 years old. But it is an amazing, simple go-to resource. And that was the first time I'd ever seen linear programming. He had 3 6-month programs, but he also had tempo. He had drop sets, he had 1.5s, 21s, but then he had phase training as well. And so I was like, okay, this is new for me because bodybuilding is like you run 12 weeks of whatever you run, and then you just change everything up. And, I got to find new stimulus. But you don't really change a lot. Like you kind of go heavy and then you go light, and you go heavy and you go light. It's just, there's not a lot of change in terms of the standard bodybuilding stuff. And then once I got into college, I learned more about high intensity training for real. Got more into the physiology, the evidence-based side of what's going on. And then at EFT, Elias ran I always call it a modified conjugate because it's not a true West Side version. A modified conjugate version where we did a max upper day, a max lower day, a reps upper day. But then our dynamic effort day was for both upper and lower. And it wasn't squat, bench, deadlift based. Dynamic for us meant athletic based.
Right.
So our dynamic workouts were all sleds, med balls, jumps, sprints, explosive core work, explosive push-ups, explosive pull-ups, and any version of that I could cook up. And we would do it in 30 to 40 second intervals. in terms of our rest in between each exercise. And we do it in usually a huge circuit. So 5 to 10, 12 things in a row. And the goal was to bridge the gap from the strength we were accumulating on our standard strength training days to actually take that and translate it to athletic movement. And we also started incorporating a ton of prehab days, which is becoming a popular word. But back then, people didn't really do prehab.
Right.
And we would have like a prehab mobility, not Kelly Starrett level, but that idea of we're going to take 5 or 10 minutes and work on different areas throughout the body. And we would wrap that into a whole session. It'd be like an hour session by the time you were done with it. So that's the evolution of what I was exposed to. When I started working for myself a couple years ago, I said I need to get better as a coach. And it's hard to do continuing education when I've been blessed to work with such high-level people, because when you have access to those people and work with them for a long time, like Matt Forte is my guy. I trained him for 5 years. And the guy missed 1 game in 4 years. And the guy missed 1 game in those 4 years that I trained him. And he led the league in yards from scrimmage. Like, think about that.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's getting tackled multiple times. He's in the way that he only missed 1 game. So I learned so much from. Now, that doesn't mean he wasn't hurt. He tore a tricep. He had knees messed up, ankles.
Everybody in the NFL is just wrecked. They're just pushing through. Yeah.
But I was forced to. Okay, he has to play because he's cleared to play. There's nothing structurally where he's going to make it worse. So how can I get him to a level where he's comfortable and activated and playing? So I've been put through this mental process of figuring weird, unique things out over and over and over and over and over and over at the highest level. And it's just really put me in a unique place. So I was like, I need to get better. So I was like, I'm just going to do something I would never do. So I met Silent Mike through Barbell Brigade. And Silent Mike is a very linear based, sub-maximal programming for powerlifting. So I was like, all right, I'm going to run Silent Mike stuff. So I ran his program. And then I got connected with Matt Winning through Mark Bell and Super Training Guys. And I ran Matt Winning's conjugate, which his conjugate, he always says it's like kind of built for raw. And so I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Let me try out his conjugate style. So I did his programming for, 3 months, paid him to coach me, whatever. Then I did Steve Gentili, who works a lot with Chad Wesley Smith now. So you kind of have that school of thought on it. And that's how I've kind of continued to grow. But after all that, I would say that I've now landed firmly on conjugate is by far the smartest system. And we can dive into that as far as you want. But I would say today, I fully am aware in a lot of levels of why that's the case.
Interesting. So you, and the thing that you just said that interested me, you didn't exactly pick conjugate and just stick with it. You've kind of worked your way into thinking, okay, this seems to be the best. Like you said, I mean, you just mentioned you did some Chad Wesley Smith stuff, and that's definitely not conjugate. So you've kind of
right.
you've done all these different avenues and alleys of strength training, and you've kind of come to this one conclusion. Would you say conjugate best system for just athletes, or best system period?
Yeah. So what I've learned to frame my mind around is the first thing you have to consider when you're training someone is what is their goal? And then you have to craft the optimal program for their goal, whatever that is. Not what your notion is, not what you like to do, not what you maybe even know to do, to be honest. What is the best, most optimal outcome for their goal? And optimal is an important word because it's a combination of efficiency and effectiveness. So I would say for athletes, conjugate is 100% the most optimal way, because an athlete can never afford to be in a phase of training. If you're working on hypertrophy with an athlete, I'm not working on speed and power. So when is it appropriate for an athlete to not be fast or powerful? It doesn't make sense.
Right.
Especially because anybody that knows sports, they play year round. Now you might only see them on TV for 5 or 6 months, but they're in mini camps. And the thing is, people are, oh, that's just practice. Like BS. People are trying to take their freaking job every single day on the practice field. That's just as much of a game as anything else. If anything, actually, once you're kind of into your role on a team, I would say you have less risk of getting your job taken than you do in the off season. In the off season, they can cut you, they can move you. It's just a lot easier to navigate. So these guys have to be primed year around. And even on the high school level now, people are playing spring football. They're playing these almost like AAU style summer camps. basketball is literally year round, volleyball, take your pick. So in saying I need to be ready year round, Conjugate is a system that you work on everything year round and you don't get interrupted by travel. There's no phases. If I'm in a speed phase and I have to go to a mini camp for a week and not come back, okay, now I'm a week off my phase. So what do? Do I go back and rerun the phase? Do I just jump to the next phase? Well, that doesn't really follow the linear model because you're supposed to be prepped. So it just doesn't really work as effectively as people would like for it to be. Now, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. That's a really important distinction. People really take this very black or white thing like, oh, you're saying Conjugate works, that means everything else doesn't. It's not what I'm saying.
It all works.
The body adapts to whatever you tell it to do.
Yeah.
So, I could tell you guys, hey, you want to get lean? Put on a weight vest and go run 25 miles every day. You'll get lean as right?
I'll probably die, but yeah.
Now, your knees will be beat up and your back and everything else, but you would get lean. So it works.
Right.
But is it the most optimal way? Is it the most effective, efficient, safe? All those words kind of go into optimal for me. And I would say, no, it's not. So, with athletes, can you run a linear phase? Well, if they're at a D1 school and I'm the head strength coach and I have those kids 11 months a year, maybe I could. I would still argue on the things we are just talking about phases don't really make sense for an athlete, that it's not best, but I could still probably get okay results, probably still do fine. And maybe even to the level which people wouldn't notice the difference because so much of athletics is outside of training, coaching, and, whatever. So, but it's still not the most optimal way. And if it's not the most optimal way, you're doing a disservice to your athletes.
Interesting.
So that's the athlete side. The powerlifting side, I did strongman for a while, which I really enjoyed. It just takes a lot of time to do. I flew to Colorado and did Brian Shaw's, one of his contests, in person. He said I did the best hand over hand prowler pull he's ever seen. I freaking smoked it. It was amazing.
That's a hell of a compliment coming from him.
Yeah, no, it was actually really cool.
That's amazing.
But strongman is Conjugate by nature, right? It's a variety of lifts in similar patterns: overhead, deadlift, carries, loads, whatever. But powerlifting is a very, very specific sport. You have three things that you do. So what I would say that I've learned is, like Silent Mike, I literally, whatever I run a program, I ran to the T, right? So with Silent Mike's program, I for sure got better. I got better at my lifts. I put my best total up ever. But the side of it is, because you sacrifice a lot to get so specific. So now I'm weak in everything else but those three lifts.
Right.
When I'm running Conjugate, I could probably grab 150-pound dumbbells and go 25 yards and back on a lunge. When I'm running powerlifting, I could squat close to 600, but I couldn't maybe 40-pound dumbbells down, and I'd be done.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and the other side of it is anybody that, in my opinion, and I'm sure if people are really hardcore, they'll DM me about this, but you don't find a lot of linear-based lifters who are successful for a long time. You'll see them successful for a short amount of time. They're kind of,
right.
Because by getting so specific and so strong in those three things, that means you're also getting weak at everything else. And fitness is a huge spectrum. There's an infinite amount of ways your body can move. So when you develop weakness in other areas, you're inviting the potential for injury. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but you're inviting it in.
Right.
And that usually ends up happening is, they're really strong in those three things. But if they're a little fatigued, they get a little bit out of position, they don't have the GPP, the general physical preparedness, to overcome it. And something tweaks. And then the problem is once it tweaks, because you always squat the same way, now I can't get out of it because they don't switch to a safety bar or a box squat or a camber or a belt squat. So they just keep hammering it over and over and over and over. And you see this with elite lifters all the time, and it really pisses me off. They'll be tweaked and I just got to make it to my meet. And it's that's not going to end well for you. You're going to get heavier with more fatigue on something that's structurally already somewhat tweaked, and you're not going to vary anything. It's not going to be a good look. And I don't have to give any examples. If anybody follows any elite lifters, you'll see it happen all the time. And it doesn't mean that it wouldn't happen if they were running Conjugate. It could, but logically, physiologically, any word you want to use that actually is reasonable, I would say the risk is lowered. Now, the flip side of that coin is, can you be specific enough on game day?
Right. Yeah, I've seen plenty of dudes that are really good in the weight room, but they never really played a down or anything on the field. So you got to find the how it transfers over. One of the questions that I have, this is something, because ever since we got back from the Arnold and West Side and meeting Louie and like everything, so I've just been diving into this. One of the things, I actually look to the other side of people that are critiquing West Side and Conjugate, and I want to see what they're saying. There's one, I have two things that I've come across that I want to get your take on. Number one is that GPP, and this is from a YouTube video I watched, someone said that GPP, sled dragging and all that stuff and pushing has no carryover. You should just be practicing your lifts at like a 50% max. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then we could get into that. I'm not going to give my opinion. I'll get your opinion. And
Sure.
then the box squat. My favorite, probably one of my favorite things is that the box squat has no carryover. It's like, yeah, you don't need hamstrings and glutes. Yeah, who needs that? So I would love for you to address that.
Yeah, so we're talking powerlifting, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, because again, it goes back to my same thing. Like, you have to set the goal.
Right.
So, like for athletes, it doesn't matter how they squat, whatever's safest and most effective, because they don't squat in competition.
Right.
But when you go to powerlifting specifically, I'll give you my thoughts on that. And it kind of ties into what we just talked about. Everything you does carry over to what you do. Anybody that knows physiology knows, even if I'm in cardiovascular better shape, I can recover faster from strength training workouts. That's very well documented.
Oh, yeah.
If I eat better, I'll recover better from my workouts. If I sleep better, I'll recover better from my workouts. So this philosophy of, I should only stay in this very small margin of window, people like to apply that to lifting, and then they like to go away from that on everything else. Because if that philosophy holds up, then everything else should be linear in your mind as well. Right? Like, I have to eat these same things every day, and I have to sleep the same amount every day, and I have to do these same stretches every single day. And that's just not the case. They only like to argue that when it comes to those three lifts. And everything else, if they do accessory work, they vary it. Nobody says, I need to do this specific accessory movement all the time because it's going to be the best thing for this lift. They'll do it for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they'll say, I found this new accessory lift. I'm down doing pause deadlifts, and, I'm doing Spoto press, and I switched to a JM press. And so they like to vary everything but that. And it's like almost religious. It's dogmatic. Yeah. And I just think anytime you go that extreme, it's hard to really listen because you're not giving a lot of logic or reason behind it. And so all of that stuff helps. It all carries over. Now, I will say this. When you're getting closer to competition, should you be putting out 90% of your effort doing a mile worth of sled drags, or should you be probably doing a little bit more effort on your squat and deadlift? I would say squat and deadlift.
Probably,
but that's a very small time of your year, to be honest. And you can still, within a conjugate system, vary what you need to do so that you can be peaked and ready for whatever it is that you have. So I would say that it's wrong on so many levels. And then if you understand, which most people have no clue, motor behavior, right? Motor control theory. So when you talk about degrees of freedom and movement, your body self-selects the best, most efficient way to perform a movement. So in your mind, you set a goal. And I always like to use this example. So like, let's say we're all holding a sheet. Okay, you guys are here with me, and we're all holding the corners of the sheet. And we put a ball in the middle of this sheet. And I'm like, okay, hey, Nick, dip your corner. You dip it. The ball's going to roll to your corner, right? Say, okay, now do it again. The ball's going to roll to your corner, but if you could somehow measure it, it would not roll the exact same way. Impossible for that to happen. It would literally roll an infinite number of ways to your corner, no matter how many times that we did that drill. And you would say it got to the corner, right? But how it got there was a little bit different every time. And that's really how motor control and motor behavior works. So when you tell somebody to squat, your body says, I need to go down and up with the weight. Now, your knee position, your hip position, your chest position, your valgus, your whatever it is that you want to talk about, your arch, your feet, you're pushing out, you're tweaking in, your breath, all of that factors into an infinite amount of ways that your body can perform that squat. And I don't care if it's the most elite lifter in the world. If you actually could measure all the intricacies of those degrees of freedom, it would never be exactly the same. The body works goal-driven.
Right.
It performs the goal. So anytime you can strengthen up those parameters, right? So you always talk about control parameters. So what's holding you down? So strength holds you down, recovery holds you down, power holds you down, connective tissue strength holds you down, Golgi tendon, apparatus activation holds you down, blah, 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 blah. Anytime you can scale up on those parameters, make them better, you now have a better, more efficient motor pattern to choose that you didn't have before. So like, how do you go from, I have a 1.5-year-old. How does she start walking? Did anybody teach her how to walk? Did I send her to, mobility class and we worked on her functional patterns all day and so she could walk better?
Right.
No, she got stronger. That control parameter scrolled up to the point where her body could choose an efficient walking gait. And as she continues to get stronger, it continues to get more control parameter scaling up so she can walk more efficiently. Nobody teaches her how to do that. And I always like to use this example too. You look at Michael Johnson. The guy ran choppy, not perfect form by any means. You look at Usain Bolt, terrible starter, very side to side, right?
Right.
But those two guys are the fastest people of all time. So if you took them into a sprint mechanic workshop, they would just get destroyed. But you know what they did? They put 1,000 pounds per square inch of force into the track. Nobody else is that strong. So the control parameters that actually move things, if you really know your research, is strength most of the time. So if you can scale up on strength, then everything else will get better. So I would tell people like, oh, you only need those 3 things. Well, as we talked about before, your body specifically adapts to what you do. So if all you do is squat, you will get stronger, but you will start to scale down in other movements. Your RDLs will go down, your hamstring curls will go down. And again, it doesn't mean that you should be doing those things over squatting, but those things are just as important as squatting, especially in an off-season phase, up until about 12 weeks out for sure.
Word.
Perfect.
Let's go ahead.
I'll say we can get into box squat too.
Yeah, right. The question about the box squat. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I can go a little faster because we kind of already went into a lot of it. But people try to box squat how they regularly squat, and that's incorrect.
Right.
Okay. You box squat to maximize adductor, glute, and hamstring stretch, which then means you're going to use those muscles more. That's how your body works. The more it's stretched, the more you use it to bring it back to normal. So when you box squat, if you do it correctly, push your hips back, wide stance, vertical shins, all that stuff. If you squat how you normally squat and just tap the box with your butt, you're not doing a box squat. You're doing a depth check.
Right.
Right. Football coaches used to put their hand on your butt and tap you when it was time to come up. Right. And that's really what you're doing. You're doing a solo version of a butt tap. And there's just no point in doing that, to be honest. So I would always tell people it is important that if you compete raw, that you do free squat. But you can get a lot of benefit out of box squatting, and it saves your knees for sure. It makes you a more efficient squatter for sure. You just, again, it's like I was saying with the dynamic work earlier with my pro athletes. You have to have times where you apply the strength that you gain to the specific movement you're trying to do. You have to teach your body how to bridge that gap. And the thing about Westside that nobody talks about is those guys all use gear, right?
Right.
So when you use bands and chains, that's accommodating resistance. What is gear? It's accommodating resistance. It gives you a same force curve as bands or chains. So for a raw lifter, and I know, and I'm actually going to Westside in a couple weeks, and Louis says it does work for raw, and it does. 100% conjugate works for raw. But when you're talking about that elite level, I'm talking you're trying to set world records. For a guy who's raw and they only do bands and chains, box leading up, when it comes time, they will for sure be stronger than they were, but will they be as strong as they need or could be on that day? That's the thing, because if you're a Westside lifter, your gear acts as accommodating resistance. So when you squat, your force application, your motor pattern is all the same. You've trained to use the gear by using accommodating resistance, even if you weren't in gear. If you're a raw lifter, it feels really, really different if you only squat with bands and chains to go straight bar for the first week. Yeah. Really different, because you flipped your force curve now.
Yeah.
You have no accommodating resistance. And yeah, you're super explosive, but you're usually a little off balance. You know what I mean? So like, you have to dial those things in. So I wouldn't say like box squatting doesn't help. It helps a ton, but you also have to be smart about whatever it is that you're training for, giving yourself time to work on the skill. But that doesn't mean that you can't use these other things to work on your strength.
Right. I would 100% agree. That's what I was. Yeah. I knew you would agree with me, so that's why I asked that question. I was like, he understands, so I want him to just verify it.
Right, for sure.
What about depth? Real quick, box squat depth.
Yeah, most people box squat high. When I watch box squatting online, and I've got Instagram's my main thing that I do. It's just convenient for me. It's easy. It's like a walking resume for me of people can look and see, the way I'm lifting, and I do a lot of exercises and movements to show people what these different things are for. And, I've got like 5,000 followers, which I don't care about because I don't use Instagram to make money. I really use it to educate and motivate. That's like my goal. So the people that follow me, I'll see somebody post a box squat and I'll just DM them. I hate people that comment on somebody's lift on the page. Like, stop being such a jerk. Like, unless you're literally like Louis Simmons, you have no business talking in public about somebody's form because you're not there and you're not the greatest coach of all time.
Right.
Now, if you really want to constructively have a conversation, DM them. Hey, in my opinion, from this one angle, because you remember angle matters too, this is what I saw, and, blah, 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 blah. So I'll DM somebody and say, hey, I really think you should drop your box squat height. It looks like you're cutting everything a little high. Because here's the thing, if you always box squat high, when it comes competition time, your body's going to naturally want to stop at that point. And you might get another inch or two just because you don't have a box there, like just kind of that natural spring, elasticity reaction. But you for sure will not be in danger of cutting it high. And I'm always a fan of squatting a little bit low. Like, I'm 6'3", 6'4" on a good day, and I squat to a 14-inch box most of the time. I've seen people like Josh Bryant, who's not a conjugate guy. He's got video of him squatting 600 plus to a 10-inch box. So, I'm just saying, like, really strong people, I think, use the appropriate box height. Now, when you're in gear, right, your suit almost stops you where you're supposed to be. So if your box height and your suit height kind of end up matching the same thing, when you watch those guys squat online, you're like, oh, it looks a little bit high. Well, it's like, well, if you're actually on the side, it's probably perfect, like literally perfect. Yeah. And at elite level, that's all you have to be is perfect. You don't want to be actually anything else. If you go an extra inch lower, you might take 20 pounds off your squat. And that's the difference between a world record and not for a lot of those guys. So I'm not going to sit here and hate on them because until I get 1,200 plus pounds on my back, I just don't think I have any room to talk about it, to be honest. Right. You have people who are squatting 3, 4, maybe even 500 pounds, and they're talking trash about these guys. And it's like, go ahead and put 3 times that on your back. And then let's have the conversation about how low you're going to go. Right. It's this armchair internet coaching where you try to make yourself more than you are by commenting on people's stuff. And it's like, this negativism, I don't like the negativity. I do like honesty. So Jack Welch, who was the CEO of GM, said, unwielding candor is the kindest thing you can do to somebody. So just being brutally honest, but doing it in a nice way is important, because if you don't communicate in a way that somebody can understand you, you're not helping them at all. So what was the point of you talking? It's just to make yourself feel better. If that's the point, just shut the hell up. Now, if it really is you want to help and you have some knowledge and experience and passion to motivate and educate, if that's really your thing, then do it in a way that they can hear you and do it in a way that is respectful and it's actually in your wheelhouse. I have people comment on stuff all the time on me, and they're talking about, their high school athlete that they train. And it's like, bro, like, I'm not like, it's not like an ego thing. Like, oh, you know who you're talking to. It's like, I've literally seen thousands of athletes, thousands at that level. I'm talking the best high school, the best college, the best pro, thousands. You've seen maybe one. So yes, what you're doing for that one guy might be right, but does it work over 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people? You haven't had that experience. So it's cool to be happy about what you're doing, but don't start throwing other people on the bus because you really don't know what you're talking about.
Getting hot.
Love it. Love it. Get fired up on a Monday.
All right, let's take a quick break. Let's get over to the Nintendo, see if it's done downloading over there, and then when we get back, we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Want more of the Strength Squad? You can check out all of our social media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Also, check us out on YouTube, where you can watch all of your favorite Strength Squad videos. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on iTunes and Stitcher.
Stitcher, I just met her. We would like to thank our friends at Plant Warrior Protein, official sponsor of the Strength Squad podcast. Plant Warrior plant-based protein is easier on your stomach and contains a complete amino acid profile that helps you grow, maintain, and repair your muscles. It gives you 18 grams of protein per serving, and it's made from a blend of rice, pea, and hemp. Plant Warrior pledges to plant 1 tree for every item you purchase at their online store. Head over to plantwarrior.co, that's plantwarrior.co, and use the promo code STRENGTH10 to get 10% off of your purchase. That's promo code STRENGTH10 for 10% off of any Plant Warrior purchase.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're here with Jacob Ross. We're going to wrap it up with a segment we call Would You Rather. Jacob, you ready, bro?
I'm ready.
All right.
This is serious business.
In one sitting, would you rather eat 6 pounds of sushi or 4 pounds of cheeseburgers?
6 pounds of sushi.
I like that answer.
Interesting. Sushi fan?
I'm a fan of all-you-can-eat sushi. Any other sushi is too expensive.
Yeah,
Thank
same,
you.
Same.
There's a place here in Connecticut that is amazing. I just want to shout that out.
Yeah. There's no point in eating anything but all-you-can-eat sushi.
No, I will literally pay exorbitant amounts of money just to fill myself up. Whereas on the all-you-can-eat, it's always funny. Like the third or fourth time they come back, they're like, "Are you sure you're going to eat this?" I'm like, yes.
Yes.
I am sure.
When you grow with like a crew of dudes and they come back and they're like, you put 5 rolls and like all this other stuff down. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure.
Like, yep.
Me and a couple of friends have a picture on the wall because we ate everything on the menu at one place.
No
Literally
shit.
every roll.
Dude, that's fucking dope. That's dope.
Legend.
That's
We
sick.
gotta do that.
Would you rather poop 10 times a day but never need to wipe, or poop once every 3 months but it's extremely messy, mild, painful, and diarrhea-like?
100% 10 times a day and no wipe. The ghost poop is the most
best
elusive thing in life.
Yes.
Like the poop where like you pooped, but there's nothing there when you wipe, and you really don't even you look behind you like there's nothing there. It's like, how did this happen? But you feel better. Like it's elusive. I don't know what nutrition thing I have to do to make that consistent because that's not how it works.
It's the
Most
perfect
of my
shit, dude.
poops are the messy kind. Like, oh yeah, I'm 10 times a day, no problem. Because it's just like peeing. What's the difference?
Right.
You go in there and push it out, you're done.
Right. No wiping. That's the big thing too.
It's amazing.
You don't have to worry about baby wipes and all that shit.
It's the perfect shit.
No.
It's the perfect shit.
It's amazing.
Would you rather date a woman who looks like the most handsome man in the world, or date a man who looks like the most beautiful woman in the world?
We didn't. I didn't pre-read these questions, so I don't know what's coming.
Neither
at
did
you.
I.
Yeah.
I found that that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really, really, really good question. I would pick the woman. I would still pick the woman.
The woman who looks like a handsome man?
Yeah, I would, because I don't know, maybe in the right light, to make it work.
You're like, I train people. I spend a lot of time around guys, so, kind of the same thing.
Make it work.
Make it work.
As long as she's not stronger than me, that would just piss me off.
All right, so that's the criteria. Okay, there it is.
Smart.
Would you rather, if you had to go to school again, go to elementary, middle, or high school again?
Oh man, 100% elementary for sure.
Why?
Really?
Like you used to have like reading contests, and you'd win like a hermit crab. Like the field trips were like you went to like the local dairy museum. Like, I don't know, it's just fun. Like middle school,
Simple
like,
shit.
I had
Too
to bring
much
my,
shit.
like,
Hormones, girls. You start worrying about that shit.
yeah, like you had to bring your Discman, and you have to have the latest Nelly CD, or else you're not cool. And high school, it's like there's so much even more pressure, and like people are like high school is the best time of their life, and it was for sure fun, but for me it was not the best time of my life. It was just a transition time. I think the best time is when you really don't know any better and you're just loving life. Like elementary school is like the last time that happens, where you really just don't know any better.
Dude, I look at kids like my girlfriend has nieces and nephews. I have like some younger cousins. And I look at them and their life, and I'm like, I remember that life, and it's just like,
Yeah.
what the fuck else?
Well, I mean, you go to Dairy Queen and they turn the Blizzard upside down. You're like, this is amazing.
It's the little shit, right? Exactly. And
I mean, my kids just now were playing with coasters, and they thought it was the most fun thing.
Right,
They're just
exactly.
like coasters.
That's
Exactly.
good. Keep it
It's
simple.
amazing.
Keep it cheap over there. Don't spend too much money on toys.
Would
No,
you rather?
it's-
Go ahead.
No, I say toys are a waste of time because kids will look at them and then
Anything's a
play with
toy.
everything they're not supposed to.
Yeah, but anything could be a toy.
Anything.
All right, next question. Would you rather never be able to eat pizza or Mexican food again?
Oh
That's
man,
tough.
I would say pizza, because I'm from Texas. I've eaten an exorbitant amount of Mexican food.
point, yeah.
My pizza experience growing up, the closest pizza place to me, because I lived out in the boondocks on a farm, was Pizza Hut. So to this day,
Ooh.
I still think the best pizza in the world is Pizza Hut, pan pizza, supreme.
Okay.
I still think it's the best pizza. Now, I live in Chicago, right? Like home of the deep dish, all that. I travel a lot, and I still, like, it's ingrained in me. Like, I taste pizza. I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
So
Like,
have
just
you
like
been?
mom
Wait,
made it.
you've been to New York, right? Have you eaten New York?
Yeah, I've been to New York, and I had New York pizza at, like, one of those, I forget the name of the place, but it was, like, the place to go, right?
Okay.
And I would still say I liked pizza better. I'm not saying
Damn
it
it,
is better.
Jacob. You
I'm
know
saying
what?
I liked it better.
I liked
would
you
choose
so
Mexican food.
much up until this point.
Mexican food is amazing. There's so many things you can eat. Oh my gosh, it's all versions of meat and cheese. That's all Mexican food is.
Pretty much,
How many different ways can we combine those two things together?
And rice.
Flat and a taco, quesadilla, burrito, wrap it up. It's all the same thing. I love it.
Do you, man? Do you? Would you rather get your ass whooped by a man or a woman?
Oh my gosh,
It's such a weird one.
that's a tough one too. I would say a woman, because I would say, unless I was in fear of my life, I probably wouldn't fight back. So at least I could pawn it off as that.
Right. That's what I was thinking. It's like, yo, I couldn't. It's like, I'm not gonna hit a woman, dude. Yeah.
I know my face is beat up, but it was the right thing to do, guys. The right thing to do.
Even though you were probably like, you're actually like trying, but still getting beat
Right.
up. Right. You're just gonna lie.
Would you rather be in a room with 50 bees for 5 minutes or be in a room with 50 spiders for 5 minutes?
Oh my gosh. Man, I am really do not like spiders. Can I kill them? Because I could kill 50 spiders in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Dude.
sure.
Unless
It,
they're, like,
it doesn't say you
dropping from
can't.
the ceiling and stuff.
This question's
You
making
never know
my,
where they're going to come from, dude.
This question's making my
These are
fucking
hard.
skin crawl. I hate
These
it.
are hard. Bees are hard to kill. They're not easy, Yeah, I would probably say bees though, just because spiders really creep me out. Like the fear of some little thing crawling on me. They say you eat, like those fact books you read when you're like taking a dump, like random facts. They say you eat like eight spiders a year in your sleep. That creeps me out.
Fun fact about that fact. I actually
Gross.
just learned a fact about that fact, that was a study fact that was put out by so I forget who it was, some information bureau. It was put out to test how fast or how viral information could go on the internet to prove like, oh, shit could just get spread in it. So that fact is actually like a fake fact.
Fake news. It's fake news.
Literally.
Thanks, Trump.
Oh, that makes me feel better about sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not a downer or anything. That should make you definitely feel safer. There's one I really want to ask, but I can't ask that one.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah, let's not.
No, can't ask that one.
He's a family man. He's a father.
Would you
Thanks for sparing me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Of course.
Would you rather only be able to charge your phone to 5% or have unlimited battery life but 1 hour of internet a day?
Ooh.
Now that is a freaking tough question.
Right?
Because they just did a study that like 80% of people when their battery goes below 20% have anxiety, like measurable anxiety.
Oh my god.
This world's
so
getting
walking
tough out
around
there.
at basically 5%. I would say the 100% with an hour of internet, because I could get by with an hour of internet if I had to.
I agree. I think I agree with that one. Would you rather lose your phone or your wallet?
Well, this is not a good question for me because I literally keep my wallet on the back of my phone.
All right, so hypothetical world.
I would say my wallet, because you can replace that stuff. Phone is a totally different thing.
Isn't that hilarious? Like nowadays, I feel like most people would answer that way too. Most people say, "Yeah, fuck the wallet." Like credit cards, debit cards, take it. Like losing my phone though, hell no.
I would say the opposite.
And besides, to get that stuff fixed though, you have to call, so you need your phone.
True. Oh yeah, true.
Hey, I need a new credit card. I'm on the phone to do that. So
yeah, it's true. I mean, I've lost both multiple times. Like I've lost my wallet a bunch of times and my phone a couple times, especially in the past year. Wallet, everything's gone. Boom, couple calls. Boom, everything's back to normal. Get a new license, you're done. Phone, you're like, dude, it's like it's like trying.
Well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
If you're out in the middle of nowhere, you can't order Uber. You can't call your friend or text them. Like,
how are you gonna live?
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You can't post on your Instagram story like, "Oh man, I lost my wallet." My phone, bro. Like, you just can't do it.
Last question, super simple. Would you rather have a stuffy nose or a runny nose?
Stuffy, 100%. Runny nose
stuffy.
is the most annoying thing in the world. And when my kids get runny noses, it's super annoying because I have to always wipe it, which is I don't mind doing. It's just annoying as all get out. Stuffy nose I can deal with. It's a little uncomfortable, but it's simple to deal with. Okay, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Both of you guys.
Yes.
Sure.
If you had to lose, you have to. You do not have a choice. An appendage. Which one would it be and why?
I knew this was coming.
Dick. No need.
Okay, why?
No, that's not my answer.
Thank God. So like we're talking like full arms or like full arm or leg, not like
Well, like you can
not
say
like just your hand. Oh, okay.
You
All
could,
right.
as
All
long as you
right,
have a
all
good reason for it.
Oh shit.
Because it tells me a lot about somebody when they tell me what it is. Like if somebody's like, "Oh, I'd lose my pinky because it's a less like thing," it's just like, okay, well, you're just being whatever. Like,
Yeah, true.
Man.
I'll tell you what mine is when you guys after you guys go.
All right, I would honestly, if we're talking big appendages, like big go big or go home, it's got to be an arm, and it would have to be left arm.
Because you're why?
Because I'm righty. So it's
Oh,
like
okay.
if I had to lose a major appendage,
Yeah, left arm.
wouldn't want to be my legs.
Least intrusive.
Yeah, wouldn't want to
Basically,
be my
that's what-
legs, and I'm right-handed, so it's like at a convenience. Sorry, left arm, but you're gone.
Gotta
Man,
go.
I would
All right,
probably
fair enough.
I'd probably go I mean, I drive on my left arm a lot, even though I'm a righty. So that's like my
Gangster lean.
I'm thinking like, how do I drive? And I'm like, now I'd probably lose my right arm, to be honest. Plus, my
Wow.
left arm is bigger. So keep that.
What about
bitch
you,
around.
Jacob?
I would lose both legs because I don't know if you've ever seen those guys who walk around on skateboards, but that is super cool.
Oh,
And their arms are jacked.
Oh, like the
Yeah, dude,
yeah,
yeah.
the what do you call it? Like those metal blades or whatever. Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
well, no, like they're literally like they're people who they've lost both legs and they they get around on a skateboard and they
Oh,
use their
yeah,
arms and
yeah.
go like this and like their arms are so jacked, like it's amazing. I had to lose it.
Yeah,
Like,
dude.
why not?
And like not for
Think of how
nothing.
much stronger you'd be if you walked around on your arms all day.
Oh yeah. Well, not for nothing. I mean, and this is like obviously meant to be a compliment, but a lot of the adaptive athletes who don't have their lower legs, they're all fucking jacked.
Oh, it's amazing.
Upper body's huge, man.
What's
It's
it?
amazing.
What's the CrossFit guy? Kevin Ogar.
Kevin Ogar,
Yeah.
yeah, and then there's another dude too. They're just like disgustingly jacked upper body.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had a tragic accident, but he's stronger than I am in upper body. What's my excuse?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
no, I agree, man. Adaptive athletes. I mean, you guys could do a whole podcast on that. What they're able to do it's mind blowing. It's
Unreal.
like who was that guy that wanted to run the Olympics and they were like, no, you can't because you have a competitive
Yeah,
advantage because you had a
Yes,
fake leg.
because of the thing. Our
That
nine
was,
inch. Oh,
the dude who
man.
killed his wife. Yeah.
Oscar Pistorius.
Pistorius.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, was it him? Was
Yeah,
it him
dude.
before he did that?
Yeah.
But it's like, what advantage does he have? He's missing his legs.
Dude,
Like,
unreal. That's a whole nother show, but like, yeah, I've had that.
yeah, it's crazy.
We've all had that argument with ourselves in the shower. Like, what the fuck? How is that a competitive advantage? What the fuck?
It's crazy.
All right, Jacob, before we go here, man, first, thank you. I know you're on vacation. You're with your family and stuff, so we appreciate you taking the time to be with us here.
man.
Man, we've been trying to do this for like a year. I'm so glad it worked out.
Literally.
Dude, I was just
Literally
saying to
a year.
him today, I was like, we met Jacob beginning of this month last year. We
I know.
just got
Yeah.
him on now.
We were playing hard to get, dude.
It's good. It's
worked.
good. I was too.
All right.
Before we go, though, plug all your social media, where people could find you and where people could find all your work if they want to follow what you're doing.
Yeah, it's real simple. My Instagram is Jacob at jacob.w.ross. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me. Find me. Instagram is super convenient for me. Facebook is too much. I don't really tweet. So
Yeah.
Instagram is the best.
Yeah.
And then my website is real simple. It's just jacobwross.com. I don't do any business out of it. There's a way that you can email me from there. But if you're ever interested, Ed, I have all the athletes I used to train in small print on my athlete page on purpose because that's what I have done in the past. And I'm looking forward to doing new things. So I don't want to live in that for the rest of my life. But if you want to go and see everything there, it's all on there.
Dope, dude. Well, again,
Perfect.
thank you so much. We appreciate you for coming on, and hopefully we can get you on again in the future.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, brother. Take care.